After losing Fred VanVleet to free agency, the Raptors could be planning a huge trade to take the team in a different direction, and that could involve Pascal Siakam. So, which teams are interested and what can Toronto really get in return for the All-NBA forward? Let's get into it. Welcome everybody to Amateur Hour Sports. This is a YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content and videos just like this. If you want to keep up to date with all the videos coming out just like this one all throughout the off season, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You can help me on my road to 15,000 subscribers, and don't be afraid to hit that notification bell as well so you never miss out on any of the uploads. But the NBA rumor mill is turning right now as the dust settles on the opening days of NBA free agency. Most of these significant players that were available have a new home, and teams are starting to see what sort of position they are projecting to be at the start of the season, at the end of the upcoming NBA season. And for the Raptors, the fans may have a pessimistic view, but the team may have had an optimistic view going into free agency, and that really could have fallen off after losing Fred VanVleet and having to replace him with Dennis Schroeder. With the upcoming free agencies of OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam now on the horizon, Masai Ujiri's front office could really start to think that it's time to take the team in a different direction. Not a full-blown rebuild, in any way whatsoever, but just assessing the team and trying to be honest with themselves. Is this team truly good enough to contend in the way that it is currently built and the way that it is currently laid out? Many people would wager it's not, so a trade could be in place now to try and get the team to go in a different direction. And in order to do that, you'd have to trade one of the heavy hitters like OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam. Now, I think the Raptors, as far as their timeline goes, if they want to go towards a rebuild, it would make a lot more sense to keep on to OG Anunoby, especially because OG Anunoby is just a perfect complementary player for any team in the league, whereas Pascal Siakam at 29 years old, he's a two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA player. He's a phenomenal player, the best player on this team by a considerable degree, coming off of his best season. But if the Raptors are focused on a different timeline, maybe it's best to cash in now while you can on Pascal Siakam rather than having to wait and see with the upcoming free agency what that is going to look like. Maybe lose another player to free agency, and also for the upcoming season, wanting to be focused on developing players in the team, getting some of the younger players involved, getting Scotty Barnes even more involved. There are some great reasons in place why the Raptors may want to move on from Pascal Siakam if the right offer comes their way. Reasons why they may not want to move on from Pascal Siakam could include, well, the right offer doesn't come their way. And getting a player of Pascal Siakam's ability is tough. Many people will be thinking right now, well, Pascal Siakam is not a bona fide first option on a championship team. I mean, very few players can fit into that category, but Siakam is a very clear and able second option for that sort of thing. So many teams could be looking for a player like that, but even getting a player as good as that, a two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA player, even getting a player as good as that is incredibly difficult in the NBA. So losing one in a trade right now, well, you'd just be working towards a future where you get a player, hopefully, who is just as good as that player. Again, that would be incredibly difficult to do. But because we're in such a difficult situation right now, not a lot of draft capital for the future being able to trade. The Raptors don't have their pick for the 2024 season, so you'd want to be a good team, but you also want to focus on development. And you also want to focus on starting to recoup some of the assets that have been lost in the post-championship era. Pascal Siakam provides an opportunity to do that. So what are the trades going to look like and which teams are interested? Well, there are three teams that have had at least some reported interest in the player. So we're going to go through those three teams and talk about the mock trades and potential trades that those teams could offer the Raptors. And the first and foremost, the one that's been all over the media lately, having had big interest in picking up the player, is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, what's intriguing about the Atlanta Hawks is that I think Atlanta Hawks draft picks have high value. I don't see this team being extraordinary, even if a trade does manufacture. I don't think of this team being a contender or a team that is in a good position for many, many years to come. So I'm a fan of getting Atlanta draft picks. The problem is they lost a lot of their draft capital trading for DeJounte Murray, and the fit clearly wasn't very good for Murray in his first season with the team. So the team is already set on potentially offloading DeJounte Murray, and based on the lack of draft assets, based on the lack of young players that they would really be wanting to move, Kobe Buffkin just signed his rookie deal, which means he can't be traded for 30 days. Based on all these factors, DeJounte Murray would have to come back in the deal. And I'm not the biggest fan of DeJounte Murray. I'm not the biggest fan of the fit here. I'm also not the biggest fan that DeJounte Murray is going to be a UFA as well at the end of the season. But what the trade would have to look like, the Raptors would just have to get Onyeka Okongwu in this deal. They would just simply have to get Okongwu to be the backup big for Jakob Poeltl. I like that part of the deal. The Raptors would likely have to get DeJounte Murray, Onyeka Okongwu, and some salary filler. This could be Kobe Buffkin in 29 days from now. But for now, for the sake of this mock trade, it could be Saddiq Bey, another movement shooter who could provide the Raptors with some good minutes over the course of this season. And just for salary filling purposes, I also added in Garrison Matthews. Hey, maybe he gets hot from three and you have a role for him, but probably not. This just balances out the trade to make it successful. Along with that, a pick that the Atlanta Hawks can trade is the 2024 first-round pick. So you don't have your own draft pick, but at least you do have a draft pick for that 2024 draft class, which is a little bit more intriguing for the Raptors going forward. So as far as this trade goes, I really like the fit of Siakam with the Hawks. I think Siakam would be an excellent tandem with Trae Young. I think that fit makes way more sense than John Collins ever did, and way more sense than DeJounte Murray does for the team. But the Raptors have to look at it like, well, is Okongwu being like the main piece of this deal enough to entice us? Because how much of an interest is there in DeJounte Murray? How much of an interest is there in getting DeJounte Murray and having to worry about paying him at the end of the season when he does become an unrestricted free agent? For that reason, as much as the Hawks may have interest, we know how Masai Ujiri operates. They're going to ask for a very good deal here because this is Siakam. Two-time All-NBA, two-time All-Star. We're not just going to roll over here and take the best offer available. There is some growing optimism among some reporters, some very credible reporters, that Siakam wants to remain with the team long-term and will sign an extension even if he does test the unrestricted free agent market next season, that he wants to stay in Toronto and be a part of this team. So there's no rush to trade him. It would have to be the right offer to come into play here. If Atlanta want him, I mean, it's probably going to have to include AJ Griffin as well. It's going to have to include Okongwu. It's going to have to include DeJounte Murray, and probably more than just one pick here. But their hands are a little bit tied with their assets. They don't want to lose all of these players. I understand that. But from a Raptors perspective, there's not much the Raptors can do in this situation. But an offer that is very intriguing that could come into play for the Raptors is from another team who has had interest for a number of years in Pascal Siakam services, and that is the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings had an unbelievable season last year, finishing third in the Western Conference, took the Golden State Warriors to 7 games where they ultimately fell to a monumental, historic Steph Curry performance. But they could be looking to upgrade and may feel like, hey, Siakam is the right guy to fit next to our stars like De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis to take a lot of the scoring pressure off of De'Aaron Fox as well. And I like the fit, and there's a pretty good trade here that the Kings could make. Now, this is another team that doesn't have all of their draft assets available to make that sort of, the model trade for a star player right now is like the Donovan Mitchell, DeJounte Murray of last summer. It's 3 picks, 3 first-round picks, plus some filler. But they don't have the capabilities of doing that. But what they can do is keep the Raptors really afloat this season because we don't have our pick. We can be a competitive team while also prioritizing the development of young players while getting some future assets as well in the process. And what this trade could look like from the Sacramento Kings, first of all, you get Kevin Huerter. Part of that salary, part of that is that the Raptors just have to get some sort of value back. It'd be tough for them to lose that sort of player, but a movement shooter coming into the Raptors would be great and would be a welcome sight for the upcoming season. Along with Kevin Huerter, you could get the former 4th overall pick in Keegan Murray, help spearhead a future contending team potentially with his Raptors, putting him next to Scotty Barnes, maybe a better fit overall for the player. Then you'd also add in David Mitchell, which would certainly help in the point guard depth of this team. David Mitchell hasn't really developed in the way he was expected after being a lottery pick in the Scotty Barnes draft in 2021, but maybe the Raptors can find a new level for the player. I've also added in Kessler Edwards. This is just salary filler. This could also be PJ Dozier, whoever may be, just to balance out the salaries here. But draft assets that could come our way are the 2026 and 2028 first-round picks. So a little bit down the line, yes, but you do get a young player in David Mitchell. You get a very young and talented player in Keegan Murray. And this would just be if the Sacramento Kings are prepared to say, hey, the West seemingly is a little bit open here for us. We have a very good team. Let's go and maximize it right now with a player like Pascal Siakam. The difficulties in this trade, Siakam is an unrestricted free agent. This is quite a lot for the Sacramento Kings to give up, and if it doesn't work out for them, there's no real way for them to pivot going forward. So I think this deal makes sense for the Toronto Raptors. difficult to make this work from a Sacramento Kings perspective to have them happy with this deal. I think picks is something they'd be willing to give up, but I'm not sure that they would give up a significant player like Kevin Huerter along with Keegan Murray in this deal. But again, the Raptors have to get some sort of value here. Keegan Murray as a former first-round pick along with 2 other first-round picks, a young player and salary-filling players. There's not a lot you can really do here if you're the Kings to make this deal happen, because again, the Raptors are going to be asking for a lot. I think ultimately this deal falls down on the perspective of the Sacramento Kings, but it's very interesting to look at as a potential deal if Sacramento truly are still interested in the player. And the final team, maybe a bit of a wild card to trade for Pascal Siakam, but the Dallas Mavericks are a team that clearly want to maximize this era with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. They want to get Luka Doncic happy, and bringing in a player to alleviate a lot of the scoring pressure like Siakam and to help in the defensive end would be a welcome sight for this team. It's just they've rinsed a lot of assets putting this already mediocre team together that there's not a ton they can really offer the Raptors. But what exactly could they offer? Well, some young guards would be interesting for the Raptors to receive, and those young guards would have to be Josh Green and Jaden Hardy. They provide different sort of abilities, but with those two, you're adding in defense, you're adding in role player, you're adding in very good perimeter shooting as well. So with those two combined, I think you're getting pretty good value here overall at the start, but the other players you have to take along in the process, Maxi Kleber likely has to come back to make the salary work. He's an important part of Dallas's defense because they're just so bad on defense that Kleber is a significant part of them. Not really against taking on this contract for the Raptors, 3 years, around $11-12 million a year. But then you have to also take on that Tim Hardaway Jr. contract, $17 million this year, $16 million next season. Not the end of the world. It's a tradable contract, but not something I really, really want to take on. This offer isn't even great to begin with, and they can only really offer their 2026 first-round pick in order to make this happen. I think Dallas would relish the opportunity to really make the top-end talent of their team even better by adding in Siakam, but I just don't know if there's enough here to satisfy the Raptors, and I don't know if Dallas would part with 2 of their potential future important rotation players like Josh Green, like Jaden Hardy, to make this deal happen. And for that reason, I think Dallas probably don't really want to do this, and I think the Raptors ultimately don't really want to do this. So the Raptors, we're in a tough spot right now. Obviously, Siakam, OG, they're free agents next summer. Scotty Barnes is extension eligible next summer. And this current team, the way it's built, the starting lineup, is expected to be Barnes, Trent, OG, Siakam, Poeltl, with a bench unit of, the bench unit of Dennis Schroeder, Grady Dick, Jalen McDaniels, Otto Porter Jr., and either Achua or Boucher. Not a team that screams contender to me and faces those complications next summer and doesn't have their first-round pick this season. So not a great situation to be in. We would love a reset, but we're not just out here discarding Pascal Siakam either. We have to get the right offer in play, and if it's these 3 teams interested, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to make this trade happen. So ultimately, a lot of buzz going around right now. There was a Michael Grange article suspecting the Raps could be doing something else, but ultimately, everything is speculation right now. Even still, Masai is dead set on this team being competitive, it looks like. So as much as there's all this noise, the NBA rumor mill is turning with Siakam, I'd be still pretty surprised if Pascal Siakam wasn't in a Raptors uniform and starting for the Raptors at the start of the upcoming NBA season. But what do you think about that? Which deal would you take? Do you think the Raptors will trade Siakam? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching this video. Drop a like if you did enjoy. Subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you again very soon for another video.